Detroit didn't 3-1-3. We're back live from Detroit in our hotel rooms down here at the draft. Before we get going, you guys, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Don't forget the bell icon. But that being said, Steve, with the everything that's went down today, it's been a long day. But how are you feeling, man?
I am extremely sore, extremely tired. We have walked, I'm pretty sure, every square inch of Detroit today and yesterday. We went to Hart Plaza, Campus Martius, casinos, restaurants. Like we hit it all. So it was a fantastic experience. City of Detroit, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Beat Nashville's record, I heard, of 200,000 a couple years ago, and we had
Yes, sir.
275. So
275, and they had to pause it and stop letting people in.
yeah. And I will tell you right now that I am glad I was at Ford Field and was able to avoid that monster crowd because it did not look very comfortable or pleasant down there.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to stop by though. We got to stop by, grab some food, walk around a little bit, see everything they had to offer down there. It was freaking awesome. Stage looked awesome. People were super friendly. Even the people from opposing teams, everybody was super friendly. Everybody was down to talk. I mean, it was a little trash talk, but it was all pretty friendly.
Friendly.
No,
Yeah.
no, I didn't see to on my end. I didn't notice any incidences or anything that what involved any drama or anything like that, man. So it was pretty awesome, man. From what I've seen and heard so far, it's been an awesome event.
Yeah, it really sucks that we're not going to get another draft for probably quite a long time because this was awesome. But we will be probably having to do some tours to some other cities and check it out and see where Detroit ranks. But fantastic experience. But at the end of the day, this wasn't about an experience. This was about a business day for
Yep.
the Detroit Lions. So, how do you feel about cornerback Terrion Arnold from Alabama?
Man, Terrion Arnold, I feel like, well, first thing I'll say is this. There has been, especially on our channel, but I've heard it outside of our channel too and seen it on Twitter. There was a lot of debate about who was the better corner in house between him and Kool-Aid. And I'm not here to tell you that it's not close or that uh Terrion's hands down the guy or anything like that, but I do believe what I saw on film, and I do believe that we got the right guy. Terrion Arnold is a guy that is a relentless competitor. I believe he's a star. He's charismatic. Today, I learned that he's phenomenal behind the camera. If you know anything about him, you know he's a guy that plays with a level of moxie, a level of swagger, a level of confidence. He believes he's a lockdown corner. And I think that if you're going to be a lockdown corner, it better start with a belief and some ability. He has the ability, but he has a strong belief, and he's a gritty dude. Little story that I heard about him was he got into it with Nick Saban and, had a bad couple of series, and Saban sat him down. And after that, I believe it was Eli Ricks that came in for him. But every day after that, until he got his job back, before practice, he was just writing down Eli Ricks' name, just writing his name down. Like, hey, I got to step it up. And he's like, hey, man, that's my brother. And we're teammates, but we want the same thing. We're going after the same thing. And I'm not going to settle or allow somebody to just take my position. So he's a guy that has that competitive edge that we look for. Blue collar, gritty, uh, iron sharpens iron type of attitude. He's not going to shy away. He's not going to back down. I think he's going to fit right in Detroit, man. I think we got the right guy for the job. Steve, how do you feel about it?
Well, I got to remind you of something.
What's up?
Do you remember a conversation we had about a month ago?
I do.
When I told you exactly what Brad Holmes was going to do. I told you he's going to that Alabama Pro Day instead of Michigan's. He's going to check out these Bama guys. I mentioned Dallas Turner, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terrion Arnold, Chris Braswell. I told you one of these guys is going to be a Lion in the first round.
You did say you did say that, but I do distinctly remember you being real high on
I was
one's
high on
not named.
Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Yeah.
But only because, the way this draft fell, were we expecting 6 quarterbacks to go in the top 15? No, but it was good news for us. Like we said, the more offensive players that go, Detroit Lions need some defense. 15 picks, and we haven't even seen a defender yet. So it was kind of like we were sitting there licking our chops. Like, who's it going to be?
Yep.
But I told you, Brad's going down to Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Pro Day, instead of Michigan, that's right down the road with 18 guys with draft talent. And he's going to get one of these Alabama guys. Now, I didn't think Terrion Arnold would be there at 29.
Yeah,
But
same. I didn't either.
The way the draft started falling, Bo Nix going in the top 15, Michael Penix. I don't know what Atlanta's doing. There's some guys we work with that I'm going to have some questions for you when we get back. We're going to be talking about what you guys are doing in Atlanta. So I'm not surprised. I like it. I wasn't really mentioning Terrion Arnold in that episode again because I thought there's no way he'll be there at 29, but we got a gift today. And we had to get him. It's not like he fell completely to us, but he was within Brad's range, obviously. So he made a move, went and got his man.
Steve, let me ask you this. Do you believe pre-draft, that Terrion Arnold was Brad Holmes' guy? And the reason why I ask you that is because as I look at the board, Nate Wiggins was still out there, right? Obviously, Kool-Aid McKinstry was still out there, and all the other guys that were mocked to us, Cooper DeJean, Ennis Rakestraw. Like, there were still guys that were corners that were out there. And instead of just waiting, he traded up to go get Terrion Arnold. So do you think that he went into the draft with Terrion Arnold very high on his list and Terrion slid down? He was just like, Merry Christmas?
Yes, because I saw some reports on the Twitter that the Lions were looking to move up somewhere in the high 20s, late teens for Terrion Arnold. And I think as the draft went and all these offensive guys started flying off the board, I don't know who was on Brad's board, but I think there was probably 3 or 4 guys, and I think Kenyon Mitchell might have been one of them, just to guess, because I think when Kenyon Mitchell got drafted at 22 to the Eagles, that was one of Brad's guys that was very high. And he said, all right, there's the first corner. I'm definitely getting the second one. I'm making a move, calling Dallas, taking their pick, giving them our 73, getting a 7th round in return. I think Terrion was 100% on the board. I think Kenyon Mitchell was as well. I don't know. We'll have to wait for Inside the Den to see if any other names were mentioned, but I think those are 2 for sure.
Yeah. You know what I kind of made mention of something that made you a little bit worried about me a couple of episodes ago. I can't remember exactly which episode it was, but I said I don't trust Brad Holmes. And immediately you were like, whoa. And I cleaned it up. I cleaned it up. But I'm going to lean into that a little bit for a second, because when I really think about what he's done and what he did today so far, so with the first round pick, Brad Holmes is a gangster, man. He's a gangster. And what I mean by that is he told us exactly what he was going to do. He told us exactly what he was going to do without telling us what he was going to do, because he said, listen, I'm going to let you guys know this. If there's a guy that I want, right, I feel like he fits what we do. He's a Detroit style player, because not everybody can play in Detroit. We'll go ahead and do what we have to do to acquire that asset. And that's exactly what he did. But he also said this. He said, if there's a cluster of guys that we view that are all similar, then we'll trade back. And when he said it, and he said similar things in the past, I said to myself, man, BS. He's got a mindset. He's already locked in. But I think that Brad Holmes is really the kind of GM that allows free agency to come to him. Doesn't panic. He doesn't panic. He's not the guy making all the moves day one. He's making the big splashes, spending all types of money. That's not him. And the same thing with the draft. He puts his board together and he allows the draft to unfold and the board to kind of settle itself. And then he, like a sniper, takes his shot, man. And I haven't seen him miss yet. So, man, Brad Holmes, man, I tip my hat to you again. While I will say that this pick wasn't a surprise, but what was fun and exciting to watch was him navigate the board again. And he did it in a fashion that I was a little bit surprised how it went down.
William.
Yes, sir.
I got some inside information just now from a friend of mine who's right next to me. My buddy Mitch. I got to give him a shout out. This the credit's going to you over here, Mitch.
Appreciate you, Mitch.
If you can't hear him laughing, sent me some tweets as we're talking here. So some inside information from our I guess we'll call him a producer for this episode. He's from Kyle Meneke on Twitter that Terrion Arnold was Detroit's highest rated cornerback per Brad Holmes. And then, so I'm guessing Brad Holmes has obviously been interviewed at some point. We have not seen that yet. We came back. We hopped right on here. Also, Brad Holmes said that there was this is from the Pride of Detroit. Can't steal their credit either. Brad Holmes said that there was a quote unquote significant line between Terrion Arnold and the next best cornerback in the draft. So with that information now, I'm thinking as soon as Kenyon Mitchell went, he knew I have to get ahead of whoever was at 25, 26, like Green Bay and
Green Bay,
Tampa.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tampa Bay probably looking to replace Carlton Davis. So with that information, if there's a significant line, Kenyon Mitchell off the board, I know Terrion Arnold's probably going in these next 2 picks. I got to get ahead of those 2 teams. That's how I feel now that I have that information.
Yeah, that's pretty key, man. And I think that's dead on. It makes absolute sense. I will say that, Steve, and I got to steal your quote again because it just fits so perfectly here. Carlton Davis, we watched him play against Justin Jefferson. I made mention to the other day, I watched every single snap. I actually watched a few multiple times. And many of the plays that Justin Jefferson made in that game was when Carlton Davis wasn't on him. And Carlton Davis just competed that game. He gave Justin Jefferson hell. Terrion Arnold is stating that he believes that he's a lockdown corner. He believes.
I hope so. I hope
believes
so,
that.
man.
So if we're living in a world, and again, I've said, even with that game with Justin Jefferson, I'm not deeming Carlton Davis a lockdown corner. But what I did say, and what I truly do believe, is there just a train over there? What the heck is happening?
Sorry, it's just the absolute loudest car in the world rolling by our house.
You got a Mustang rolling by.
Buddy, we're in the hood. We're in the hood. That probably wasn't a backfire. That was probably a gunshot we heard.
Yeah, keep your head down over there. But no, man. But no, if I had said that Carlton Davis, we're not gonna deem him lockdown, but he's lockdown-ish. Yeah, he's lockdown-ish. And if Terrion Arnold can come in, not even necessarily be lockdown, but be lockdown-ish.
Lockdown for a number 2?
Man, it's going to open up a lot of doors for these Detroit Lions. And then I started thinking immediately, Brian Branch, ooh-wee. Amik Roberson, ooh-wee. Emmanuel Mosley when he comes back, ooh-wee. We have, obviously we play in a conference to where I believe that the Chicago Bears got a heck of a quarterback in this draft. A guy that might be special, yet remains to be seen, but he might be special. Minnesota Vikings got a guy that we know all too well, and who is not, if nothing else, he's a winner. But we know he's got a live arm, and we know he's more athletic than guys give him credit for. I've been seeing him comped with Kirk Cousins. Dan Orlovsky, of all people, comped him with Kirk Cousins. I was like, he's got more athleticism in his pinky thumb than Kirk Cousins does.
Kirk Cousins is a statue.
Yeah,
JJ can move a little bit.
Yeah, the disrespect was unreal, man. So I think the Minnesota Vikings got a quarterback for down the road that could definitely give us some solid competition. So what did we do? They all went and got running backs, and we built a wall, right? Now they all want to go get quarterbacks, and we're just getting a secondary that is built to last and built to compete. Steve, what do you think about this real quick? And I'll hand it back to you. Ooh, let me make sure I got it. All right, what do you think about this? Cam Sutton, bye-bye, Carlton Davis. Kendall Vildor, bye-bye, Terrion Arnold. Amik Roberson, or I apologize, Jerry Jacobs, and then Mr. Dorsey, our special teamer, who went out there for a few cornerback reps. I think he started 1 week or 2 weeks, and then replaced by Amik Roberson. Our secondary is substantially better than it was last season, and we were in an NFC Championship game, winning on our halfway to a Super Bowl. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, I mean, our secondary got really exposed, especially toward the end of the season. When we were getting shredded by CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, like everyone just kind of came in here and had a field day throwing the ball. So Brad said, all right, I'm going to go out and fix it. And I still stand on the motto of an elite pass rush will fix a bad secondary. Our secondary is good. I don't think it's amazing. It's very, 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 very good. If we go out and we get a Chris Braswell in round 2, someone of his caliber, maybe even an Edgerrin Cooper, Peyton Wilson. I don't know. Like, there's still a lot of guys out there that can get some pressures on some quarterback. I think our draft is complete. Everything else will be
Mhm.
for depth.
Yeah.
Maybe we get some O-line. Yeah, I think Brad took a weakness, not even a huge weakness, and just kind of turned it into a strength now.
Yeah, I agree. There's no question when I look at those guys, man. It was a huge impact what we did today, even if it's just one player. Just adding Terrion Arnold, and I'm not here to say that he's going to start week one. I'm not here to say that, but I will say that I do believe at the end of the season he's going to be opposite of Carlton Davis. I
So
do
that's
believe that.
that's what I was just going to ask you. Who's he going to be competing with going into training camp?
Honestly, man, I think that we're blessed with a GM, a head coach, and a staff that's smart enough to just let these guys figure it out by competing. So to answer the question, I don't know. When I watched him prior to even this draft, when I was watching him in Kool-Aid, he plays inside and he plays outside. He's not a one-trick pony. And he's also spoke to playing in both positions. Hey, I know when I'm playing that slot position, I have to be able to come in and set edges too. I have to be a live athlete in the run game. I have to be ready to come downhill and make tackles, which he does, right? So he also talks about playing outside. So ultimately, I see him as our number two corner playing outside and competing there. But depending on how a Meek looks, it matters, man. The speed of the NFL matters to the rookies when they get here. They are now playing a game with grown men. The game is tremendously faster, and it takes a little bit of time to catch up. Some people do it quicker than others do. So we'll see. He comes from that Nick Saban pedigree, so maybe he'll catch on a little bit quicker than most do. But either way it goes, there's going to be a learning curve. Brian Branch caught on fast. He hit the ground running, but there was a little bit of a learning curve. So
Week one, he hit the ground running, pick six
he,
on Patrick Mahomes.
yeah, he did, man. But there was even with his play, right? Even with his quality play that he put out there, you could see a bit of a learning curve out there, and you could see him settle in throughout the season. So with a veteran corner like a Meek, and I'm not sure exactly when Emmanuel Mosley is coming back, I don't think that we have to necessarily rush him out there. He can get his feet under him. He can get rid of those little rookie Bambi legs. And then when he gets comfortable, he'll be the guy. I have no doubt. And I'm excited to see it. The thought of having nickel corners for days, having a Meek can come in at nickel, Brian Branch can play the nickel, and then Emmanuel Mosley can come in and play the nickel. If we get a guy banged up, we got a guy to step in. What are we going to look like now, and what are we going to look like in November? Like Brad says, I think we're in a good solid position.
Buddy,
Steve,
I'm thrilled with this pick. Like the more I'm sitting here just thinking about it, like we just have options. Like we're talking
yeah,
about all these guys. We could move Brian Branch back to safety, like a more natural position for him. You could bump a Meek Robertson to that nickel corner spot. You could put Terrion Arnold on that cornerback two on the outside. Like you could just shuffle so many pieces around. Like
mm-hmm.
it's scary that and I'm glad we finally got Aaron Glenn some help because we've kind of been talking about him. This dude caught a lot of heat last year,
Yep.
from myself included. But he kind of settled in himself and called some good games, even though we didn't get a lot of good results, like stats wise. But at the end of the day, stats don't win you games, points do.
Yep.
I'm still thinking, let's talk a little bit about round two. What are we going to do there? Is it going to be pass rush? Are we set there? Is it going to be offensive line, wide receiver? There's still some absolute studs hanging around out there.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely some dogs out there, man, and I am curious as well to see what we're gonna do. For me, I still want to address this offensive line, especially with some of the guys that are still out there, especially with Zach Frazier still out there, Jackson Powers Johnson still out there. Those are guys that to me are guys that could have easily won in the first round. So back half of that thing, you still got your Zach Zenners floating around out there. I told you my man from Yale too. He's out there at tackle. There's guys out there that I think can obviously contribute to this team. And then on I do have a little bit of frustrations about losing that third round pick
I was just going
because
to ask you that. I have a
yeah,
question for that.
yeah, because that's when I was kind of trying to capitalize on getting another receiver weapon for Jared Goff. But honestly, that was just me being a little bit greedy at the end of the day. I've been saying the whole time I want my cake and I want to be able to eat it too. I want everything right now. I don't want to wait till next year to get another piece. I want to go for broke. So, hey, I've seen it talked about. Maybe we give the Washington Commanders a call, man, and we trade up to the top half of the second round and we go get somebody, man.
That's kind of what I was going to ask you. So don't be stealing my thunder, Will.
My
I
bad.
got questions. I got questions over here.
My bad.
All right. Jeez, oh, Pete's. So now that we don't have a pick in the third round,
Yeah.
we don't have a pick in the fourth round.
Mhm.
After 61, it's a long way to go to round
Mhm.
5.
Mhm.
So you thinking the Lions are staying put at 61, or are we going to move up, get aggressive, make a move? Like, hey, guys, this draft's in Detroit. There's one more guy I got my eye on, whoever it may be. But we're pretty much calling it a draft after that because, like I said, no picks in the third, no picks in the fourth. Pick 61 or wherever it ends up being in the second round is probably going to be a telling sign of what's going to come for the next year or so for the Lions.
Yeah, I agree. I would really like to see us. I'm still on it, man. F that draft next year, man. Let's give up some draft equity from next season to go get what we want this season. If you believe in some of these guys, and I know me personally, I believe in some of these guys that are left. I believe in Jackson Powers Johnson and Zach Frazier. I believe in a guy like Keon Coleman, that's still on the board. I think that it's people talk about his 40 time. Steve, I know you hammered his 40 time a little bit, but
Keon Coleman?
Yeah,
I think he's actually still running his 40 time.
Unreal. But he had the fastest time going through the gauntlet drill out of all receivers, man. So it's like it's a difference between straight line vertical speed, running like you're a track athlete, and just being a good football player that plays fast on the field. I think that he's a guy that just plays on the field fast, and his hands are without question. His ability to go high point of football and just be an athlete is without question. So, he's another one, but he's icing on the cake. He would be an extra piece, if we made a trade and we got an extra piece, he'd be somebody that I would go after. But the meat and potatoes of this thing would be me going to get a guy like Edrin Cooper if he's still available, or going to shore up this offensive line with Jackson Powers Johnson, Zach Zenner, Zach Frazier, guys like that, man. I feel like if you add something like that to this Detroit Lions team, you give Jared Goff time and you give him a durable offensive line that he doesn't have to worry about. If anybody gets banged up, we got another dog stepping right in. I think that just come back out and just be another top 5 offense and we'll be just fine. We don't have to add a Keon Coleman. We don't have to add, Malachi Corley, Roman Wilson, or whatever. We can just show up with our solid offensive line, our unbelievable run game, and hot take. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs, if he doesn't do it next year, the following year, he's going to start to take over this throne as the best running back in the NFL. If you don't like it, let's see what happens.
You don't have to like it. It might just be the way it is.
It's just what it's going to be,
Yeah. So. I'm very curious because at pick 61, that's pretty much it for the draft. Like, I know we got some picks later in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round, but you're talking about getting a guy who's making an impact versus maybe a guy who you might not play if you draft an offensive lineman unless there's an injury. I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens here in the second round. A little nervous, if I'm being honest, because like I said, like pick 61, and then that's pretty much it for the Lions for the rest of the draft.
Steve, how do you feel about going for broke and scratching next year's draft? Because I know that was something that when I did my mock draft, a lot of people, I'm not going to say a lot. I feel like it was kind of split down the middle, but a few people had an issue with it. They said it was kind of silly and that I was going to be all worried about like guys like Mason Graham coming out next year and, Will Johnson and guys like that. So how do you feel about next year's draft and if we gave up pieces now, what it would look like?
I am not looking to give up pieces next year. If I have to sit back at 61 and get whatever's there, Peyton Wilson, possibly. I don't think Edrin Cooper will still be there. I don't know. Maybe those PFN mock drafts are right and Braden Fisk is still hanging around. I don't know. But I don't think I really want to be tapping into the well of 2025's draft right now. I like what we've done in free agency. I like the Terrion Arnold pick. Only thing I would like to see is a Chris Braswell. So if we have to move up to get that, I hope it's not too expensive, but I really don't want to be dipping into 2025's investments.
Yeah, I don't know that Chris Braswell can play that Sam linebacker spot, so I don't know if I want him, honestly. But it would be predicated on what we truly believe we got in James Houston and Marcus Davenport. But I The reason why I say go for broke, this is my thought process. Do you believe that we got a top 5 offense coming back right now? No pieces
Yes,
added. Okay.
absolutely.
Um, do you believe that our defense can, even with the pieces that we've added just now, and we don't add any more pieces, that we could be in that top 10, top 15 area?
The biggest X factor for me to answer that question is Marcus Davenport.
Yeah.
If
So
that guy
even
plays 17 games, yeah, I think the Detroit Lions are a top 15 defense. If he misses significant time and we're looking at Pascal and Kaminsky out there with a not so much of a pass rush, I don't know. I don't know that we are a top 15.
honestly, I truly believe, man, with the addition of Terrion Arnold, giving us that depth to our secondary, we have a solid linebacker core without adding pieces to it. Uh, I think that just taking away Marcus Davenport isn't going to be the difference maker in whether or not we're going to be top 15 or not. It could be the difference maker in whether or not we're going to be a between 5 and 10 area defense to me. But I think that Marcus Davenport could be the one that pushes us over the hump. But if we
Absolutely.
got to if we got to play Pascal over there instead of Davenport, I think we could still be okay. I don't think that would be the end of the world. So that to me, and I asked that question because of this. I think about somebody like the Kansas City Chiefs, and if we take away Xavier Worthy and we tell the Kansas City Chiefs, listen, 2024, you can't draft a player. You got to go with what you got right now, and then you got to go compete next season. I truly believe that the Kansas City Chiefs would go out there and they still would be competing for a Super Bowl. All right, so I think about the Detroit Lions, and I think that if you add 2 more pieces to this team, you add an offensive lineman that's a starting caliber offensive lineman, and you add a edge rusher or an offensive weapon or a defender that can rush a little bit and play a little bit of Sam linebacker. If you get 2 to 3, maybe even 4 pieces that contribute to this team, I don't think that we necessarily have to worry about the 2025 draft. And what I mean by that is obviously I'm not saying that we're not going to draft anybody at all. But if I gave up my first round draft pick, I still got a second, third, and fourth round draft pick that I'm going to be drafting. So it's not like I'm giving up the whole entire draft. So if you're telling me I could give up my first rounder, I could add an extra piece to this Super Bowl caliber team that we already have. So 3, 4 pieces added to it this season, and I'm still going to have a second, third, and fourth rounder next season. To me, it's a no brainer. I would do it immediately, man. Like I would run, I would sprint. If you're telling me I could go grab Edgerrin Cooper and I can maybe grab a Chris Braswell or a Marshawn Nealon or you know what I mean, or what's my man, Dorland or I don't know, man.
There's options.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys out there, or I can add a receiver to a mix, in the mix of it too.
Let me throw
I just
something at you real quick, Will.
yeah.
The Los Angeles Rams
Mhm.
made their first pick in the first round today since 2016 when
Yeah.
they took a guy by the name of Jared Goff. Maybe
Yep.
might have heard of him.
Yeah.
Do the Rams have a Super Bowl within that 8-year window?
They sure do.
They do. So I know they gave up 2 first rounders for Matthew Stafford. I get it, but still living by the theory of you can trade first rounders and get some talent and go win a Super Bowl. The Rams have done it. It happened 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's happened recently. We're not talking about something that happened like the 90s.
Yeah.
Like something very, very recently. So if Brad wants to do that, if he wants to go for broke, move up, get a guy, offensive line, linebacker, edge, whatever it is, I guess I just got to be good with it. I trust Brad. I think the team's knocking on the door. We were right there last year. Why can't we, take that next step and get over the hump?
I think what would make us different from the Rams, though, is the Rams were a little bit older.
Very.
The team was a little bit older. That O-line was old. Todd Gurley was on his way out of the door, and it ended up out of the door. Robert Woods. I mean,
Even
that team,
Aaron Donald contemplated retiring after the Super Bowl.
absolutely. That was an aged team. When I look at the Detroit Lions, if we do it now, Amon-Ra is still relatively young. Jared Goff has another 4 to 5 years he's probably going to play. This offensive line, man, is the ones that I would be worried about adding pieces to. But the anchor of our offensive line, in Penei Sewell, he's solid, man. So if you add right now some youth to that offensive line, your running back is young as heck. JMO is young. You know what I mean? Like we have our secondary is relatively young. Our linebackers are young, and Derek Barnes is by no means a senior citizen. Obviously, Jack Campbell is a baby, right? So Anzalone is a little bit older, but the main core group of guys, Aiden Hutchinson's, the core group of this thing that's really driving this thing, they're babies.
Yeah.
They're babies. So if you go for broke now and you get a couple of guys on 4-year deals, you got your corner that's going to be a 5th-year option. This team can be good for a decade, man. Like we could have a team that could grow and, they could be getting their second contracts, or as we develop other guys and they go into free agency and somebody decides to pay, because you can't pay everybody, but somebody decides to pay these guys 50 million, whatever.
The Eagles are paying everybody. Why can't we?
Right. I'm still trying to figure that out, Steve. They're not playing with the same salary cap as everybody else. But
I don't understand. They're paying like 12 guys over $20 million. I don't even make it make sense.
Yeah, it's unreal, man. I don't know what type of backdoor deals they got going on, but that's to me, and I think I needed to explain that a little bit because I know a couple of people had questions, but that's to me why I'm so adamant about wanting to go for broke now. We got a young team. The Rams did it, I felt like, knowing that they needed to win a Super Bowl in that window and they may fall off. I feel like
and they did.
Yeah, and they did, but I felt like some of that had to do with Stafford just being beat up, man. He got hurt, he was banged up. I feel like when he won the Super Bowl, he fought through some things because he gave his body to the city of Detroit. And Matt, thank you. It's on site when you come in here playing against us. But other than that, man, we got love for you here. So, but I don't know, man. I just think we're a young team and we can keep getting younger and go for broke. And that don't mean that we're not going to come back and still get a few pieces in 2025. And then it would be a normal draft in 2026. It wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, and still got free agency, all that stuff too. So a lot can happen.
Yeah.
But round 2 is going to be interesting. Guys, let us know how you feel about the Terrion Arnold pick. Leave some comments down below. Hit that like button. If you're new here, stick around, subscribe. We'll be back later. We'll do a full draft recap after round 2 as well. So we'll be back later with some more content.
Peace.